All right, welcome everybody to this Transform Mail Value session. And if you're listening to this and if you're seeing me right now here on your screen, you have been invited to watch this because we want your input. We want your feedback. We're going to take you inside the room here with a very select group of mail service providers. These are folks that are doing significant mail volume in the United States. And you're going to hear the conversation that we had with these mail leaders around how we believe the industry is transforming and how we see MindFire and BCC working together. We're better together in bringing you the value that you need. With me today is Chris Lien, Executive Vice President of BCC and representing Postal Affairs there for that incredible organization. I'm going to bring him on here in just a moment. We're going to kind of tee up the conversation for you, and then we're going to take you right inside the room. So what you're going to hear today is Chris's perspective around why the market is transforming, how it's transforming, and why is now the best time to take advantage of the combined value of BCC and MindFire in bringing that value to your customers. And as you do that, we want to show you the additional value that you can unlock, the additional value that you can provide to your customer. And then I'm going to give you an overview of the integration, what we actually envision as the way our two technologies are going to work together. And because I like pictures, I'm also going to bring up two visuals that are going to help you understand specifically what that integration looks like, some real examples, so that you have a hands-on understanding of the value that you can now bring to your customers powered by BCC and MindFire. And then at the end, we're going to make a shout out to see if those of you here want to participate in the early adopter program. So with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. Just briefly speak to us about what's changing in the market and why do we think it's important to do this now?
Thank you, Dave. And thanks for all of you for being on the webinar here again. And as David said, this is exclusive, right? These were hand-selected people here. You've been hand-selected because we want to hear your input. We want you to be at the leading edge of what we're envisioning as an opportunity. And here's where I'm going to start with. Over the last couple of, about 18 months, 24 months, unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that many of our customers at BCC are falling into one of three camps. Either they're dying, surviving, or thriving. Dying because they really didn't listen to our call to action last year of do something. They continue to do the same old thing that they were doing before. They did not take advantage of postal promotions. They didn't do anything with that. And sadly, they missed out. They missed out on some big opportunities last year. Then we had some customers that were surviving. They did listen to our call to action last year of do something. Many of you actually focused on removing the undeliverables addressed mail. And I can see that in the data, right? From 2024 compared to 2020, the total mail volume for marketing mail dropped about 10%, but the total UAA volume dropped 22%. So you did do something. You helped your customers remove junk from the mail, right? These are undeliverable and ineffective as addressed mail pieces. But here's the exciting part. As the volume goes down, the value goes up. Those pieces that are remaining have incremental value to them. And so now we're at a pivot point. And this is where we want our customers to thrive. We need to start shifting away from the concept of a price of postage to the purpose of the piece. And these postal promotions and growth incentives are going to help us to do that. Did you know that last year with the postal, there was a 46% increase in 24 versus 23 for mailers that took advantage of the promotion? It's over $500 million the Postal Service gave out in promotions. And that growth incentive, this is where the mail owner gets credits that they can use for future mailings. That generated $550 million. Let me repeat that. $500 million, folks, of the 1,400 companies that participated. That $500 million has to be spent this calendar year. If they don't spend it by the end of this year, they'll lose that money. So here we are. We got a bunch of mail owners with $500 million that has to be spent. These postal promotions, of which are right within your fingertips, because I know a lot of you are producing these pieces, and a chance to bring all that together to thrive by doing omni-channel opportunities. Let's go beyond postal promotions into omni-channel. That's the purpose of today. BCC MindFire together, we want our technology to help you not only survive, but thrive in this dynamic changing world, because the postage prices are going to go up again. Yes, They're going up in July. So let's get prepared for this now.
Carissa, if you can bring this up here on the screen, I want to talk briefly here about kind of the reason why we're doing this, which Chris just talked about, in specific terms around the value that we believe it's now going to equip you. If you're watching me or you're hearing my voice right now, you as the mail service provider, what is the value that it unlocks that you can bring to your customer? And so, Chris, if you could just briefly walk us through the postal savings idea, the operational benefits it's going to bring, and then the strategic advantages that it brings to the organizations that are here.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so let's start with the postal savings, and listen, one of the biggest things with the postal promotions is that tangible discount you get at the time of mailing, anywhere from a 3 to 4 to 6% if you take advantage of the add-ons and so forth that go along with those. And if you missed the webinars that we did last year in November, December, you can certainly go back and watch those. There's a big opportunity for all of you, and some of you did take advantage of that last year, but a lot of you did not yet. And for those of you that did take advantage of it, 6% discount, you come to me and you say, well, Chris, I split the discount. If you're bold enough with your customer and you keep 3%, you give 3% to the customer, that 3% is really kind of de minimis. It doesn't do a lot for me. Or the mail growth incentive, you're not helping your customer because it's, you don't get a piece of that. It's for the mail owner. But here's where you're missing the point, folks. And again, I'll go back to my phrase. It's not the price of postage, it's the purpose of the piece. You are a stakeholder. You build the intelligent mail barcode. You create the opportunity that direct mail has for customers that are smart enough to realize you can't do omnichannel without direct mail. And now we have direct attribution with direct mail, with the intelligent mail barcode and the tracking that goes along with it. So let's start moving towards omnichannel as your next step in the process. Promotions to begin, omnichannel next, and get our customers to spend that $500 million to be able to do that. And what we want to do with BCC and MindFire technology is to make this approachable and efficient for you. Imagine technology with BCC and MindFire that flows together in a seamless fashion, data that flows together, interoperability between the two, ultimately resulting in a single dashboard where you can see the overall efficacy of the campaign. That's what we're looking to do here, folks. And that's why we've invited you to this exclusive event. We want to begin the conversation and move quickly with your feedback, your involvement, so that we're building this together with an eye towards the opportunity for you and all mailers, not just the big guys out there, right?
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Everybody that wants to survive and thrive going forward. That's the idea.
Yeah, and Chris, you mentioned the dashboard view that brings us all together. Folks, stay tuned. I'm going to show you that here in just a moment on the screen so that you have an idea of what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like to have this power in your hands. All right, now I want to share for a moment here. If you look at the screen here, there are 3 specific areas where we are bringing our solutions together. And it starts with the data and how the data flow is going to be optimized. Then the second is in mail tracking. Chris has alluded to that, kind of the IMB being the connective tissue between the 2 applications. And then informed delivery over on the right. Now, while we say informed delivery specifically here on this screen, I want you to know that we are also hearing very loud and clear from many of you that the BCG and the way postage promotions are handled is sometimes not as easy or as fluid in terms of how you run your business and what you need to do for your customers. So we are also considering, how do we make that part of the process easier? USPS is involved and helping us understand how we can bring more value to all of you in those key areas. For today's conversation, we're just going to be talking about informed delivery and how we're making that easier. Okay, so Carissa, if you can just put the visual on the screen. I'm going to start over here on the left on the mail file flow optimization. So here's the idea. Those of you who are in DP, data processing and operations, you know that when you use BCC to do all of your mail file preparation, you then have to export that out of BCC and get it into MindFire, right? Well, what we want to do is we want to eliminate that friction so that there is a much more automated and hands-off way of getting data from BCC into MindFire, because as you know, there's different naming conventions and it takes just more time to be able to export and then import, and you have all sorts of issues trying to get the data synced up. We want to create some sort of easy button, if you will, that allows you to more seamlessly get the data from BCC over into MindFire. And the outcome of that will be that the data management portion of these omni-channel campaigns becomes more simple. Data is at the root of everything that we're doing in these omni-channel campaigns. In fact, the one that I'm going to bring up here on the screen in just a moment is really going to drive that point home. So by virtue of the fact that the data are tied together between BCC and MindFire, this brings us closer to a single source of truth. And that source of truth, the data, can then be used to orchestrate multi-channel campaigns. Again, if you're questioning, what does that look like? Hang tight. I'm going to show you in just a moment. The net of all of this is that we want to reduce the manual effort that you folks have to put into creating these campaigns and make it just simpler and easier for you to be able to do that. All right, Chris, I'm going to do a quick scan of the questions here. Folks, get your questions and comments in on this. Let me take a quick look. Yep, I see David here. You've got a good point here. David is saying if an API or a connection can be built between BCC and MindFire so the data is stored in the cloud by BCC or locally, and those lists can be accessed directly in MindFire, that would create a durable ID for personalized QR codes for PQRs. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, David. And for the rest of you, that middle column, I want to get your feedback on that. Do you see the value there? How would that help you? What are you seeing as the opportunity that you can bring your customers now with this in mind? So that's the second column. Please take a moment to give us feedback on that. Thirdly, on the right, and while this is saying informed delivery integration, I do want to make mention of what Chris said earlier, which is that we do view this as a larger opportunity to make the use of the postage promotions and growth incentives something that's easier to execute on behalf of for your customers. So while I'm saying informed delivery, just know that the future state is that we are also looking at how do we make those promotions easier overall.
Right.
So informed delivery is another multi-channel touch, right? You're going to see that here visually described in a moment. We're looking at things like automated campaign creation, bulk management capabilities to be able to create campaigns, large numbers of campaigns on the fly, instead of going through BCG and doing them, manually one by one. We see a lot of opportunity in many situations where you all need to create 300, 400, 500 campaigns at a time. If that's not your use case or your situation, then maybe it doesn't apply to you. But there are some folks who need a large number of campaigns and then an improved interface for managing those campaigns versus what's available in BCG. There are other things like streamlining the image that's there in informed delivery, making the click on the informed delivery button lead to a personalized URL landing page instead of just a generic URL. So there are all sorts of things like that that will bring it together and integrate it more closely within the omni-channel framework. Again, I'm going to show you a picture of that here in just a moment and give you the ability to see all of your performance metrics in one place. Chris, did I miss anything there?
I think you nailed it. That's exactly it.
David saying, I've seen that although informed delivery registrations are growing, clicks rates have started to decline. The thought is that too many mailers have made the right along to salesy. David, I'd be curious what industries you're seeing that in. Would it be possible to combine the track and trace with open clicks in an omni-channel campaign and or social media and be able to review it in an integrated dashboard? David, stay tuned. You're going to see that in just a second. So David's doing the work for the rest of you here. Come on, guys. I want to see your feedback there in the chat. Nick is saying, I love the BCG integration to make it easier to set up informed delivery campaigns. Okay, got it. Please give us feedback there. Laura, want to hear from you. Peter, want to hear from you. I know, Peter, your goal is how do we drive more sales with this, right? I know the other group over here is how do we sell more? How do we get closer to our customers? How do we create stickier relationships? So we're getting there. All right, so Chris, talk to us about kind of like where we see this today, where are we right now, and then talk a little bit about your future state vision and where we are intending to go with this integration. And then I'm going to show everyone an example.
Yeah, so right now we understand that there's a connectivity, at least conceptually, as we talked about before, right? You're preparing the mailing, you're creating the intelligent mail barcode. Downstream, you're using MindFire or for an omni-channel platform opportunity with that. But the thought was that there's got to be a better way to integrate this. So what I'm envisioning is that you're going to have some customers that just want to mail as they've been doing, and you can use mail tracking the way you've been doing it with it. You try to talk them into omni-channel. Maybe they're not interested. Maybe they're not quite, the mail owner's not quite there yet, and they're kind of coming along. And then you got the customers that definitely want to be involved in that. And so what we're envisioning is that you've got BCC, you've got MindFire, and then you start building your solutions and using combined credits, right? So I'm envisioning a credit bundle that includes mail tracking that helps you to set that up and MindFire so that you can do an automated flow through that part of it. And then as you're preparing everything, you sort of leave from the BCC because now it's post-induction, and then everything is done through the MindFire with the dashboard kind of part of it. So that's sort of at a high level kind of I'm envisioning with that, but all around the idea that we're trying to encourage all of you to, shift that focus, right? Start to bring the operations and the salespeople together within your organization. So now you're focusing on that purpose of the piece with the
Yep.
customer. Talk about what results are you looking for here, and how can we together create that return on investment and that response rate that you really want.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks, let us know if you have any questions about that. I'm going to move now to the illustration here that we prepared that will give you an example of what we're talking about here. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it will make some of this easier for you to get your mind around and to give us feedback on. So if you're ready, let me know there in the chat. Give me a yes in the chat, please. I want to make sure everyone is paying attention. Jason, I'm looking at you. Jeff, I'm looking at you as well. Jennifer, Jim, Ken's ready. Yes. David says yes. Come on, folks, give us a yes. I want to make sure you're alive and kicking there. Jason, good to see you. All right, so take a look at the screen now, folks, and what you're seeing here, and Carissa, producer Carissa, if you could make sure this is front and center on the screen and maybe remove my beautiful head off of the view there. What you're looking at here is a campaign performance dashboard. And I'm going to show you the 3 tables that you're looking at here and kind of walk you through what it is that you're seeing here. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of you sitting in front of a potential customer or an existing customer and being able to demonstrate to them the value of the mail that you do for them, the value of the work that you do to drive their business results, and that you're using this as a tool to aid you in that conversation. Okay, so you're sitting in front of a customer and you're pulling this up and you have this in hand. So what you're seeing here, each of the columns here is the same for all 3 tables. Let's just focus on the first table for the moment. You've done a campaign and you want to know how is that campaign doing by list. Many of you use different list sources. You see a couple illustrated here on the screen. Maybe the customer has a Salesforce export of contacts, of leads. Maybe some data has been acquired from InfoUSA, lapsed customers, and maybe a consumer list that was purchased. That's what you're seeing here in these rows in this first table. Now, in the columns, David, this is going back to what you were asking a moment ago. You see how many mail pieces were sent, how much mail was delivered. This is pulling from track and trace, the delivery percent, and now these 2 columns here, you're looking at informed delivery. So how many of the informed delivery emails were opened? By the way, this is real data, folks, from a real campaign, just the information behind it has been obfuscated to protect their specific results. But this is informed delivery email opens, informed delivery email clicks, the number of clicks on that informed delivery email. And then as you look here, we've got the personalized QR code and the PURL. So how many people scanned the QR code, how many people typed in the PURL, and then the total number of responses. Is that making sense, everyone, so far? Give me a yes. Give me a yes if that's making sense. Anybody? Give me a yes. David's making sense. Ken says yes. Ken with an exclamation mark. I like that. Rob, yes. Peter, yes. Okay, good. So now look at this here. In this column here, once somebody responds, once somebody picks up that piece, we know they have it in their hand because they scanned the personalized QR code that ties back to the data, right? We know that they're responding to this campaign. And from that point forward, let's say they have some sort of form that they need to fill in to become a lead. Here are the number of leads that are generated. And then in this particular example here, we're seeing this become increasingly a reality. You can get the data back from the customer CRM or their POS, their point of sale system, or whatever they're using to transact, and get that data back into the dashboard. And the result of that is what you're seeing here. This shows you how much in sales each of these list sources generated. So now you're sitting in front of the customer and you said, yes, you spent, I'm just making the number up. What are we looking at here in terms of pieces? 49,000. So maybe you spent $35,000 on this direct mail, right? And you generated 286,000 in sales. Is everyone getting that? Chris, what would you add to this articulation? And then I'll go to the next 2 tables.
I'm just thrilled, Dave. I'm thrilled. I've been envisioning for a long time this, being able to see something like this, right? A single, easy to understand dashboard that pulls in, the postal track and trace information, that pulls in, the informed delivery clicks, that pulls in the omni-channel on the digital part of that, and really simplifies it, and even bringing in CRM data, right, from the customer's CRM system. so that you can see the overall efficacy of a campaign. And I love this for a couple of reasons. One, it's easy to understand, it's simple, it's in one place. Two, it elevates the value of the direct mail piece, demonstrating that it's the foundation for omni-channel marketing. Up until recently, and you could say, well, we've had the IMB around for a while, Chris. Yeah, but not everybody's really trusted the data. We didn't have the logical scan events. We weren't sure what all these things. Now there's enough juice, if you will, behind it to be able to say, you know what, that is an important component with it. And the fact that that IMB can be connected to these additional scan events, the QR code and so forth, I think it's fantastic. So imagine if you're the mail service provider, right? You're all on here and you put something like this in front of your customer, what a tremendous value that's going to have. And that they're not going to be able to get if they're going somewhere else or trying to piece things together. It's a one-stop opportunity for you. That's a big growth area. I could see micro agencies, if you will, right? Within a printer, being able to offer something that would be really difficult for a mail owner to try and piece together with several different companies. Now they can do this and use those promotions as that on-ramp, right? Take that conversation away from the price of postage and start focusing on the purpose of the piece.
I want to know your impressions here, folks. Your first impression as you see this. Drop it in the chat, please. I'm going to go quickly through the next two tables here on the screen, and then I'm going to show you, just in case there are folks here who are wondering, how does this actually happen? How does an omni-channel campaign work to deliver these kinds of results? I'm going to bring it together here for you in a visual. Christopher, you're listening from the airport on your private plane. Yes, you are muted. Don't worry about that. All right, so the next two tables that you're looking at here, one is response by mail kit. Many of you do this. You test different kits, right? So we've got a 8.5 by 11 and a non-window number 10. You've got a window number 10, buck slip, 6 by 9 postcard, all of the standard kind of different kits that you might test. And again, you can see what's driving the results that we're looking for. And if you're like me, you're probably saying, show me the money. And your eye immediately goes to the right-hand column here, right? What's bringing in the results that we're looking for? The next table down here is response by decile. I know some of you do this. I think, Ken, I've seen some of your campaigns that do this. Certainly, Laura, I know that you've embraced this. So this would be response by decile, right? And you'd be able to see that, for example, decile 1 is bringing, is that true? Yeah, it's bringing the most number of sales here. Decile 2, 3, and 4 kind of follow suit, just as you might expect in the data here. So this is just an example. This doesn't mean that this is exactly how you have to represent the data to your customer. Each of the breakdowns here, each of these tables, and the rows in each of those tables there, these are customizable per client and per campaign that you're running. If you're running higher ed campaigns, this might be, maybe the school that you're promoting, the undergraduate degree that you're promoting might be one of the rows, okay? If you're doing financial services, let's say, it might be the FICO score of the people that you're targeting. So don't think that it's hard-coded to what you're seeing here. Know that what's in the mail file, the data that you've provided initially or that your customers provided, is the data that we can now do these breakdowns on. So David is saying if all of this is possible and affordable, it will put a small guy like me into a whole new level of business. Dang. What do you say to that?
I love it. I love it. That's exactly what we'd envision here, right? Look, I understand. Not everybody's IWCO, Quad R, Donnelly. I get it, right? You don't have 10, 12, 15 people on your staff that is focused on talking about omni-channel and building landing pages and all these things. I get it, right? That's expensive. That's a difficult thing. But I think there's this opportunity, and this is why David Rosendahl and I, we're sitting down last year, we're talking about, it's like, listen, there's got to be a way that our two technologies can come together and make something that's affordable, approachable, and easy for our mutual customers to be able to bring this to their customers. I use the phrase micro agency. That's exactly what I'm kind of envisioning here, folks. I'm thinking about, hey, start working internally, put together your talk track. I've talked to a lot of you about how to position and sell the postal promotions because I know you're already producing pieces today that would qualify for many of those promotions. Let's make sure that we're doing that and talking about that. But while you've got that customer conversation going on about reducing their postage through a promotion, let's talk about what the next step is. This is the next step. This is going into omni-channel. This is leveraging the value of direct mail as part of an omni-channel play. And for a lot of mail owners that I've talked to that went for only digital, right? They kind of abandoned mail. and they focused on digital only because that was the shiny new toy at the time. They're coming back to direct mail. You know why? Because digital fatigue is a real thing. And if I, I can maybe suppress my email. I can suppress other things digital. I can't suppress the mail in the mailbox. So let's use those mail pieces again as a door to open up an opportunity. And I'm seeing it, folks. I really, really am. And now with this growth incentive, I want to remind everyone again, $500 million. $500 million has to be spent this year. Let's get that spent on something like this.
Who wants that $500 million? You guys want a little piece of that? I assume that everybody does. A couple things here. Ben is saying, I think this helps the small printers and the bigger printers with smaller campaigns. Yeah, good point there. I want to know what questions you have and what feedback you have. I'm going to bring up a second visual here in a moment. But Carissa, if you can throw that dashboard back up on the screen here, I want to make sure everyone's looking at it. David's got a question here. So in the real estate world, the deciles could be income, age, net worth, years in the house, or any other variable in the data. David, that is absolutely right. So we call those breakdowns just, kind of internally. So whatever columns you have in your mail file, whatever columns you have there, we can create a breakdown by that column. So it could be gender, it could be age, it could be anything that's in that mail file in order to help you analyze what's working. Let me say one more thing about that Chris and I are noticing here as we talk to many organizations like yours. There seems to be two flavors of dashboard that you're seeing here. One is, I might call it a simple kind of baseline set of reports and views that you designed for your customer. How many leads we generated, how many sales we generated, as an example. Most folks don't go into the nitty gritty. They want to see, show me the money. They want to see the end result. However, for you, David, based on your question and others who are thinking in the same way, you're going to want a more detailed set of views like what you have here on the screen. Why? Because you want to do more of what's working. You want to guide your customer to do more of what's driving the results. And so you can use this data to now come back to the table and provide value in helping them not just do great print production, but also deliver that value. Chris, you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Ben, is this ready to go? Yes. So Ben, the view that you're looking at here, for the most part, all of that is in play in one way or another. Let's talk about the specific use case that you're thinking about, because I know you've got some cool stuff cooking, and let's see what we can do. We're going to tell you more about how to get involved here in just a moment. Jamie is saying, is this leveraging BCC Architect Reach for the integration?
No, it's not. Well, I guess it depends, right? Remember, Architect Reach is just one of many products that BCC sells, right? What we're looking at is there a way to be able to create a connectivity layer with all of our products, right? So are there customers today that are using BCC and MindFire together? Of course, right? But they've created that interoperability layer. They're on their own, right? They're trying to piece together as best they can a dashboard or something that's similar to this. Our idea, and hence the purpose of the webinar today, is to let's get this conversation started so we can move quickly with both companies, BCC and MindFire, with your input and guidance, so that we're doing it the right way, right? I don't want to have the engineers at BCC, for example, working on something, throw a piece of software over the wall, and then we send it out to you and say, is this what you wanted, right? And then you come back and say, no, make a change like that. I don't want a waterfall approach. I want to have something that's more of a agile Scrum type of an idea where there's immediate feedback as we're developing this together.
Yep. Keep the questions coming, folks. All right, the next thing I want to show you here that kind of, let's say, goes one level deeper here in terms of how does an omni-channel campaign output the results that you saw on the screen a second ago. Turn your attention to the screen. Chris, if you can make this the primary thing on the screen for just a moment here, look at the screen. So everything that we do basically falls into 5 different buckets. I'm going to show you each of those 5 facets here on the screen. I'm going to go clockwise fairly quickly through this. If you have questions, reach out to your camp manager, reach out to us. We're happy to go in more detail. Everything in an omni-channel campaign starts from the way we view it with the data. So that's one of the reasons why Chris and I first sat down is I realized the data comes from, in many cases, from you, Chris, from BCC, right? And so up here in the upper left, there's more that we do here as MindFire, many of you know, but the core of what we're talking about today is that ingestion of a BCC prepared mail file is what we want to make much, much easier without having to make you jump through a bunch of hoops. That BCC prepared file has the intelligent mail barcode in it, which means that then here as you go to step 2, Chris referred to this as the priming of the mailbox. This is the idea of creating additional impressions before the mail arrives by serving a variety of different digital communications to that individual. If you don't know what that is, talk to your account manager. We can talk more about that. But the idea here is as that IMB is scanned, right, this is triggering additional multi-channel communication, whether that's a wallet push or a ringless voicemail drop, text message, email. I think you get the idea. All of that then adding additional layers. Or think of it another way, taking that one potential impression, the direct mail piece, and turning it into 15 or 20 additional impressions, all in advance of that piece hitting the mailbox. Let me know if that makes sense. Drop any questions you have there in the chat. And then, of course, here, once John, in this case, goes and opens up the pretty pink mailbox here, you're all familiar with all of the different ways that we enable you and your customer to then track that response. Fancy marketing work for that, many of you know, is attribution, right? Giving the attribution back to the direct mail campaign, back to the original data or list that was provided up here, and then using that to capture that response, usually a landing page, and driving retargeting and engagement. What I mean by that is, if we're good, maybe we get 1,000 people to scan that personalized QR code, and maybe when they arrive here at the landing page, only 200 fill in that lead form. Well, what about the other 800? Given that we know who they are by name, that's a group that we can now retarget through a variety of different mechanisms, offline and online, to squeeze more ROI out of that campaign. And then lastly, of course, all of this is accruing rich first-party data, very similar to what I just showed you a second ago, that's building the insights that you need to then feed that back up into step one, and this flywheel starts to build momentum. So that's why we view this as a very important relationship here between BCC and MindFire and you. You're the voice here that we need now in this conversation to help guide us in what we're doing next. Does this make sense to everyone? Give me a yes in the chat if this is resonating. Yeah. Are you getting how this fits together? I want to see the yeses there in the chat. If not, I want to know your question. We want to know your questions. David is saying totally. Jason, yes. Peter, yes. Rob, yes. Peter, I want to know, in what ways do you see this helping you sell more mail? That's something that, as Chris said, we want to help folks not only survive, but thrive, right? We're mission driven. Would you agree with that, Chris? You and I think very similarly. Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to help the mailing industry, right? And by the way, the Postal Service is supportive of this as well, right? They're thrilled. They're thrilled with the, how the informed, or the postal promotions are working, the mail growth incentive. And what's interesting, Dave, and everyone on the call here, the line of demarcation that I'm seeing in this industry between those that are starting to, again, move in this direction that we're discussing now, and those that are just, nope, I'm just going to continue to do the same old that I've been doing. Yep. You can see the mail volume decline. What I mentioned before, the dying, surviving, thriving. It's sad. And I see a lot of our customers at BCC, they exit the market, and it's because they didn't want to take advantage of some of this new opportunity. And unfortunately, they became the slow zebra while the rest of the lions overtook them. And we don't want slow zebras, right? We want to help you all run.
I see Sean saying, yes, this makes me want to buy so much more from both companies. Way to go, Sean. We love hearing that. Jeff says yes. Anthony says yes. Mike says, is this going to be totally open? We have a few other vendors we would like to use. Mike, clarify what you mean by totally open and where, so that we can figure that out. Ken is asking Chris, where does this process start? Are we processing the data in Mail Manager, then sending it to MindFire, or the other way around?
No, it starts with, well, a little bit of both, right? Because, you may be discussing with your customer, what is their goal and opportunities for their overall campaign, right? What's the purpose of the piece? Okay, so it may be a little bit of both. You're preparing your campaign with MindFire. You're beginning with the name and address file with BCC. From a technology flow, though, the way I'm envisioning this is it begins with the pre-sort software, whether it's Mail Manager, Ignite, et cetera, what the Architect Reach, whatever you're using from BCC. So you'd bring in the name and address into our software. You'd standardize the name and address, right? You'd run it through Pave or what process with that. But then I envision that's going to communicate with MindFire to bring back important information like the pearls, like the informed delivery information, like the additional pieces. And that through our BCC software, now you're registering for an informed delivery campaign, for example, so that you can automate that enrollment process. And then as the mail is going through and being processed by the Postal Service, BCC is receiving the track and trace data from the informed visibility, as a data delegate. We provision that data through MindFire now. So we receive it. Maybe we add on some additional components that were sent to us. Envision, for example, the QR code. What if that QR code on that mail piece directly ties to the intelligent mail barcode that's on there? You have direct attribution. That person, that Chris Lien, was holding that piece when they scanned that QR code. Think about the value of that of what that means for your role in the supply chain. But all of it, at the end of the day, it all flows into that MindFire dashboard that you saw David present, making it easy for your customer to understand, making it powerful so that they can see the journey began with you as you created the IMB and flows all the way through to the higher response rate you're going to get in this.
You can tell Chris is passionate about this, folks. So
I love it. I've been wanting this for a long time, David.
Yeah, it's time.
It's here. We're going to be able to do this.
It's time. So, Chris, talk to us about this early adopter program. What do we want from the folks that are ready to step forward, and what will they get?
So a couple of things. One is, I know that some of you are currently using BCC and MindFire. I want to understand how you're doing that today, right? Because I certainly want to understand lessons learned. I want to understand, your thoughts. You're all highly intelligent people. Many of you, have been in the industry a long time. So I want to know what you're doing today so that we don't make a mistake or that we do something that maybe hinders, the opportunity that you've built. So I want to understand that. Two, I want to hear successes, right? One of the things that's important for our MindFire and BCC is to understand where are those successes, okay? What's been working? And so we want to know, if you're willing to share with us in an anonymized fashion, where have you seen some growth? For those of you that have implemented this, have you grown the business? Are you able to position your price differently for those sort of standard mail pre-sorting? I mentioned before that sleepy 3 to 5% response rate versus that 10 to 15 or higher percent response rate. Is that giving you a tool to be able to differentiate and grow your business? And then three, I'm looking for technologists, right? I'm looking for people that are willing to sit down and help us map out some of this. BCC has great engineers. MindFire has great engineers, right? But a lot of times we don't have the opportunity of touching the paper, smelling the ink, seeing your operation in view. And so we miss out on the reality of the world, right? We're developing something that's based on our understanding of theory. We want to have real feedback on that. So those are the three things that I look for, right? How you're doing it today, share with us your successes, and then are you willing to sit down and help us map out what you think would be the automated flow?
So if you're picking up what Chris is laying down, let us know there in the chat. I see David's already in. What we are looking for is for you to give us that input. That's going to help us shape product development. You're going to get very early access to all of the new stuff that we're working on here, and we are going to make it worth your time. You're going to receive an incentive in credits and/or records. So on the BCC and MindFire side, you're going to get an incentive there, which means if you're using that, it's more margin for you, right? You can still charge your customer whatever you want. And you're going to help define a set of industry best practices that I tell you, USPS is very tuned into what we're doing here, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
And so this is going to give you an opportunity to have a voice on that stage representing your company and your thought leadership when these things start to really gain some traction. What we're looking for is we want you to have a live customer campaign that you see the value of, the mail tracking and MindFire integration that I just showed you there in that snapshot. Have a live customer campaign that's ready to launch within 30-ish days. Okay? If you have that, reach out to us, your account manager on either side, and let us know what that campaign's about and the record volume that you're anticipating there. And then we're going to use that and take a look at that and see if that's something that we think qualifies for what we're looking for. The only other thing that we're asking for is your agreement to share the results of this activity. Now, we will anonymize it, unless, of course, you want a case study with your name and the customer's name anonymized. We're happy to do that as well. But like Chris said, we need this data. Not only helps us, but it's also going to help the industry. Let's see. I see David is in, wants to have more in-depth conversations. Mike says, I'm in. Nick says, I would like to help with building the automated workflow. Nick, thank you.
Thanks,
Nick, did you hear my joke about naming your son after me? I didn't see any comment about that, so I think maybe you stepped away. David says, do you have a minimum size mailing to participate? Chris, what do you think on that?
No, in fact, I would welcome any size, right? One of the things, and I mentioned it before, right? We're trying to help all of our customers. Not just the biggest ones, right? Not just the Lions. We want to help the Cubs too.
Nick says that he named his first son, middle name is David. Thank you for that. All right. So, David, you heard that. Let's see. Ken says, we fit to help develop and be among the first. Will we be able to share this recording to approach sales and other stakeholders? Yes, Ken, absolutely. Ben says, yes, we can find a test. Okay, perfect. So we're starting to see the group here responding, Chris, and I want to spend a few minutes now answering questions. It looks like we only have about 4 or 5 minutes left officially on the clock. So if you have questions, I want to make sure you take an opportunity to ask me or ask Chris. But before I lose some of you at the hour, look at the screen here. If you can pay attention to the screen here for just a moment. You may have seen that we're heavily involved in a series around the USPS postage promotions and the growth incentives. And the next event that we have with Chris Karpenko from USPS, he's the executive director there of product management, far up there in the chain. We're going to be talking about the mail growth incentive, the 30% postage credit that some mail owners and mail service providers qualify for. So that's Friday, February 21st. If you're not yet registered, I'm going to ask Carissa here to drop a link there into the chat. There she goes. She's got that there.
Awesome.
If you're not yet registered, yeah, very on top of it. We want you there. The last 2 events, something like 1,700, 1,800 people attended.
Yeah.
Remember what Chris said at the very beginning. We know, we have the insider view that around 1,300 companies participated in the mail growth incentive. We also know that there's around 5,000 that qualify who are not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
You should be servicing at least a few of those 5,000, right?
Yep.
So to be a part of this, go and sign up, register for this event, make sure that you or the folks that you need are there. The other thing I want to throw out to all of you, and this is a little bit of a crazy idea, but I want to see who's brave enough to take us up on this. This is a highly produced event. And normally it's 5 figures for the brand sponsors that you're seeing here to produce an event like this with us. But we want to make available to you, if you want to send your customers and prospects to this event, we'll give you a specific trackable link that links back to your name. And then after the event, you'll get the list of your folks who attended as leads that you can pick up the phone and call. So instead of you and your organization needing to produce and host an event like this, take advantage of what we're doing here. Ask for your specific trackable link. We'll know that it's you, David. We'll know that it's you, Ben. We'll know that it's you, Tom. We'll know that it's your customers who came because of that link. You mail it out to them, email it out, or mail, either way. And after the event, we're going to give you back that list so you have some warm leads to engage. So if you want to participate, let us know in the chat that you want to be a part of that webinar in that way, and we're happy to get you involved in the promotion. All right, Chris, what questions did you see come in that we haven't answered yet?
I think we hit all of them. I did want to say that Chris Karpenko being on that webinar is that's a big win. Okay, he's somebody that you don't always get a chance to talk to unless you go to MTAC or you go to MPF and things like. And by the way, I want all of you at MPF and in April. But no, Chris Karpenko is incredibly knowledgeable, and what I'm thrilled about having Chris on there is he's a MarTech guy. He's marketing technology. He understands it, right? So this is somebody who's going to be on this webinar that's not just able to talk about the Postal's process to be able to take advantage of these growth incentives. He's going to be able to speak, and particularly if you ask questions on what the value is of the omnichannel opportunity as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone here in the audience. I see a lot of you still here. So, Jamie, what are you thinking? Bill, how about you? Ben, I want to hear from you. If there's any other questions you have, Alicia, thank you for being here. Kenny, I haven't heard anything from you. Kenny would love to know what you're thinking. Joanna, it's good to see you here. Do you have any questions or comments? Laura, what are you thinking? Would love to hear what you're thinking, Laura. I know you're very creative, and you definitely push the envelope, Laura. So how are you seeing this, and what kind of volume or value do you think you can bring your customers? Peter, I know you want to grow sales. Love to hear your opinion. Peter, I'm talking to you, my neighbor here, so to speak. Ryan, would love to know what you're thinking. And for the rest of you, if I didn't name you, I still want to know what you're thinking. Sean says it's really exciting and powerful. Great job, Dave and Chris. Very informative. Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks.
Anthony, yep, it looks like it, Anthony. Well, folks, what other questions do you have? Chris, is there any other question you have for the group here? And then we'll tie us down if not.
No, I think that's it. I want to thank you all for your time. I know you're all busy, but we hope you're excited. I'm excited, if you can't tell. Dave is excited let's work together. Let's make this a reality as quickly as we can.
Yeah, reach out to me or to Chris. Chris, if you want to drop your email there in the chat, if folks want to email us or your MindFire account manager. If you don't know your MindFire account manager, you need to, or your BCC representative as well. All right, Chris, there we go. Perfect. Chris just dropped his email. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I hope you got value out of this. Let us know. Did you get value out of this? Give me a yes in the chat if this was helpful to you. Nick is saying, thanks, David and Chris. Great presentation. David W. says, thanks, you guys. We really appreciate you doing this. Yeah, looks like we've got the yeses come in. And Bob, you're welcome. Thank you. Jeffrey, you're welcome as well. All right, folks. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We look forward to continuing this conversation. Please reach out to us. And those of you who express interest, we're going to be reaching out to you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.